Hi, I'm Jay with User Friendly Paintball, and today we're reviewing the Kingman Spyder Victor paintball gun. The score up front, was the Victor a hit or miss? I'm going to call the Victor a hit. For what it does, I'd say the modern Victor is worth the price you pay for it. Why do I think so? Keep watching. User Friendly Paintball is here to help new players, or those who've been around for a while and want to get a good perspective on purchases they're contemplating making. I'm glad to help in any way I can with that. The modern Spyder Victor is a good, if unspectacular, entry-level paintball gun. It's arguably the best paintball gun that you can get at the current price range it's offered at. Some history of the Kingman Spyder Victor. In the case of the Victor, I'd say experienced players probably already have an opinion on it. That gun has been out in some form for some while now. In fact, I can't find a specific date when the first Victor was released. If you know when the Victor 1 came out, leave it in the comments below, would you? The Victor 2, which I was able to get some information on from PB Nation, if I remember right, it came out in the late 90s or the early 2000s. Though again, if you know, put it in the comments. It shows on PB Nation in the review section as having an introductory price of $120. So the current cost of $90 US for a Victor makes this current generation a bit of a better deal for what you get overall. Kingman themselves have been putting out paintball markers for years. In fact, I venture to say that most of the paintball guns sold in the United States are either Kingman Spyders or Tippmanns. Both tend to be lower cost, entry-level guns that newer players are more likely to start out with before deciding to upgrade to something a little bit more sophisticated. The Spyder Victor is, like almost all Kingman guns, a stacked tube blowback marker design. This means it uses a hammer and mainspring in the lower tube of the body, linked to the bolt in the upper tube, which activates the gun's valve when the trigger is pulled. The shape of the valve is what causes the gun to recock. A little bit of the pressure from the gun's shot is diverted back into the lower tube to push the hammer back against the mainspring and recock the gun. The recocking system of a stacked tube blowback is simple but effective, though it's not as efficient as those in higher-end semi-auto paintball guns. If you do have the problem of the trigger seal failing to lock in the hammer, it causes that notorious farting sound that I get a lot of newer players come to me and say, "How do I get my gun to shoot full auto like that?" I tell them usually that noise means that the gun is low on air pressure and it's not shooting at all. It's a common issue with Victors when they hit low air levels. The Spyder Victor comes in a variety of color options for the receiver, though most of the parts of the gun are standard black. There's basic black, as well as olive, slime green, blue, red, orange, purple, yellow, and a new option lately which is a clear coat over the basic aluminum. If you want your gun to sport some color instead of just shooting it, the Victor has got possibilities for you. The Victor features a single ball detent to hold the paintball in the breech, which some may argue will cause drag on the paintball as it's going down the barrel and make it shoot slightly off course. There are a lot of people out there who favor a dual detent approach. My personal experience is, in the case of this gun, it doesn't make a very big difference. The Victor features Spyder's famous metric threaded barrel. Spyder type threading is widely used in lower cost paintball markers. The outer diameter of the barrel union area is thinner than that found on the autococker threaded barrels. So the cost of materials and manufacturing on these barrels tends to be a bit lower. Just the same, Spyder threading is not as universal as autococker threading, which if you've watched many of my videos, you know I prefer autococker threaded barrels. But there are options out there in Spyder threading, which is a nice thing if you want to upgrade your barrel at some future point. The barrel that comes on the Spyder Victor is a basic 10-inch with some porting. It does the job. The Victor features a cost-saving design in that it uses a braided line that mounts from the front of the gun's receiver and goes down, right down to the air source adapter at the base of the grip frame. There is no foregrip to hold on to. This is a disadvantage in my opinion, though as I said, it is cost-saving. More expensive Spyder guns do feature foregrips, which makes those guns more maneuverable and easier to handle in-game than the Victor is. At the same time, the braided line is not a total deal breaker in my mind. It transfers air, and it's not too obtrusive. You can hold on to it and use it, though it's not as comfortable as a foregrip. For overall comfort and utility, there are definitely better options out there. Also, some may argue that this Airline is a weak point that can catch on obstacles or brush and otherwise hamper play or possibly get damaged, blowing out your CO2 or your high pressure air that feeds the gun. In my experience, this braided line is sturdy. I've seen Victors break down in the past, and it's rarely this Airline that goes out. The Airline also limits upgradability on this gun too. I'd argue though at this price that Kingman is not looking at this gun as an upgrade option. I'd also say that most users who are buying this particular gun are not thinking about what they're going to upgrade on it. They're getting this Kingman Spyder Victor as a paintball gun to figure out what paintball is all about, have some fun, and then if they want to get upgraded in the future, they're going to look at a better gun. That's all about price point with the Spyder Victor. I keep mentioning price. I've seen the Victor retailing at $90 US at the time of this video. That's about $40 cheaper than its closest Tippmann or HK Army competitors, the basic Cronus or the Saber respectively. In my personal opinion, one of those is a better option if you think you might be serious about paintball, and one of those is not worth buying. See my videos on the Cronus or the Saber for the facts as I see them. $40 is a lot of money if you're entry level. Heck, to me, 40 bucks is a lot of money in general. For that, you can pick up a decent entry level paintball mask, some paint, or anything else that might help get you started in the sport. Paying more for a gun if you're not sure if paintball is your sport, that's a tough sell. This is more again of why I say the Victor is a good introduction to paintball if you aren't sure that the game is for you. You aren't going to be out much if you leave this thing sitting in the garage for years after playing once or twice and then deciding it isn't for you. And better still, from my experience, Spyders in general are the sort of guns that you're going to be able to pick up off the shelf dusty, wipe it off, air it up, good chance it's going to work well. They're not quite as resilient as Tippmann's in my opinion, but I also remember the opinion that they're a little easier to maintain than most Tippmann guns. I prefer teching Spyders over Tippmann's in most instances. Nice thing is, you pull that bolt out just like that, run a swab down the barrel through the top tube, clean up most of your issues. If you do need to address O-rings, the bolt has a couple O-rings on it. They usually are not a big deal. If you do need to address more issues with the gun, undo this back cap. You can get access to all of the drive system back in here. Detent is easy to replace. Usually nothing goes wrong with these trigger frames unless they've been used and abused for quite some time. And the internet is full of guides that can tell you how to fix a Spyder Victor. I'm not going to be covering a course in this video. Now, Spyder packaging from the manufacturer is not high-end. It's basic stuff. You get a few useful parts, but overall, it's budget. As for the gun's construction, I'd say that Victors are built to a reasonable standard for their price. The receiver is aluminum, the grip frame plastic, the bolt is Delrin, which is a great advantage over the old days of aluminum bolts. They're easier to maintain, they're lighter weight. One problem with Victors, and I see this often on my local field, the feed neck. It's plastic. The feed neck is arguably a vulnerable spot on any paintball gun. It holds the weight of a hopper full of paintballs while players running around, putting stress on it, and even hitting it onto stuff. The tabs on the feed neck could be bigger, and I hate these Phillips head screws that hold this to the receiver. They're hard to access, and if they happen to unthread in game and they fall off and this feed neck comes undone, trying to fix it in a hurry or on the field, or especially under fire, forget about it. Yes, for the price, they're probably the best that we can expect, but it's a hassle. The field owner at Action Center Paintball, when he heard I was doing a review of this gun, he said he liked the Victor, but this was the part that he took notice of on the gun. He said, and I agree, that he'd really like to see these tabs be a little bigger, that the neck was a little more durable, and that the screw heads themselves were wider so that you got more surface area holding this thing on. One nice touch, and this is pretty much universal these days, the feed neck does offer a screw and nut type that allows you to tighten it so that your hopper is more likely to stay in. The days of having to shim a hopper with electrical tape so that it stay in the gun, don't miss those. The trigger frame is a two-finger design, which means if the gun can keep up with your trigger pull, you can move a lot of paint quickly. My internet search results suggest that if the hopper can keep up fast enough, this gun can shoot somewhere between 8 and 12 balls per second. I think that's a little generous, actually. If the air supply is consistent and the hopper is force feed, I'd say 9 or 10 is bang on for someone who knows how to fan the trigger. But I wouldn't expect smooth shooting. Your hand is gonna get tired. The trigger pull on this thing is kind of long. Plus the trigger itself is not quite as steady, in my opinion, as on some higher end paintball guns of mechanical type. This trigger frame does have a basic trigger safety. Showing red, gonna shoot. Flush, not showing anything, that's your safe. Pretty basic stuff. I said your hand will get tired if you try to get high rates of fire on the Victor. The other reason that's going to happen is that this thing's got some recoil. Victors have more kick, in my opinion, than something like the Tippmann Cronus. It's noticeable. I'd say that Stack 2 blowback guns in general have more kick than inline blowback guns by design. They're typically easier maintenance is crossed by off-balance moving parts in a tight frame that are going to make your hands tired during intensive play. It's a lightweight gun, and that's nice. It makes it easier to haul about. So looking on the bright side, you're carrying a lot less weight on the field. And the open bolt design means that it's fairly compact. But again, the downside is it's loud. The sound signature of a Kingman Spyder Victor is noticeable in compared to something like the Tippmann Cronus. Bam, bam, bam. Velocity adjustment is fairly easy. However, it isn't user-friendly as, say, the HK Army Saber, which shows you right on the gun how to turn the tuning screw to make it shoot hotter or colder. For best results, look it up. It's easy, but if you want to be sure how to do it before chronoing your gun before the game, that's a good idea. Saves time. Thankfully, Kingman sets them all at the factory, and it shouldn't creep much in regular play. Pressure efficiency on Spyders is one place where I think they generally excel, and the Victor is no exception. I don't have specific tests to show it, but in my general experience, Spyders tend to be slightly, and I do mean slightly, more efficient in air usage. For the record, the Victor can use either CO2 or compressed air. The gun's overall styling is quite basic. It's not as pretty as some of the Stack 2 blowback brethren out there by any means, but it gets the job done. One thing I like about it is that being basic, it's actually easier to clean. I believe a clean gun is a happy gun. Easier to handle, easier to maintain, smooth, uncomplicated lines on this thing, and lack of flare make it easy to wipe and go. Here we are again saying this channel is not sponsored by any company, team, or organization. So what you get from me is based on my years of experience and the lessons I've learned. When I buy a piece of paintball gear, I do so almost always with an eye to how much money I'm going to save, what kind of bang I'm going to get for my buck. For years, I played paintball on a budget. And so getting the best deal for my gear is important to me. And I want to pass on any help I can to new players who are coming up or people in the sport who want a good broad perspective on gear they're contemplating buying. If you want to support this channel, please do the like, follow, and subscribe thing, and I do thank you. There are other ways to help out, as mentioned in the comments below the video. And hey, I appreciate you watching. So why don't I use a Kingman Spyder Victor myself? Well, for one thing, the recoil on it is not the best. I'd argue that even a Tippmann Model 98 Custom, which has its own kickback profile, is less clunky to shoot than a Victor. When I took this brand new Victor out to play for testing purposes, I was amazed at how much the kick could throw off my shots.
Yeah, right on the left, right on the left. That's a kill.
It didn't really break up my game, but it did make getting paint where I wanted it more difficult. Also, it's loud. Not kidding. If you don't care about it being loud, it's nothing, but to me, it was a bit distracting. Let's also not forget that long braided Airline rather than a foregrip, which makes it less comfy to shoot and handle. Last, and this is key, I would hate to be in a game and have this feed net come off on me. Getting paint from the hopper to the breech and then down the barrel is what a paintball gun should excel at. If the hopper falls off in mid-play, you got a problem. If I did use a Victor, this is probably the first and maybe the only thing I'd try to fix or upgrade on this gun. There have got to be feed necks out there that fit this thing, that come with more modern features like a lever arm clamping and all metal design. I fully realize, as I've said, that Kingman is selling this gun as a budget marker. So I would say it's ridiculous to expect them to get players a feed neck that conforms to my standards right out of the box. For the price you pay, it's not going to happen. But for me, this is unacceptable. But again, it's important to note, and this is why I said this gun is a hit instead of calling it a miss, the price of this paintball gun, especially for the overall quality, is downright hard to beat. If you go in ready to address the feed neck or live with it, you can stand the kick, the sound, and you're okay with this braided Airline, you've got a usable paintball gun it's tough. It's good versus anything entry level out there. I'd lay even money a good tournament level player could go out and play a great game using one of these. He or she would probably be cussing the gun out afterwards, but here's a quick roundup of the goods, followed by the bads, from my point of view. Now you know. Thanks everybody for watching this video. Again, like, follow, and subscribe. Do good to others. Don't forget to hydrate. Show respect to the underdog. After all, we've all been underdogs at one point. And hey, go play paintball. User-friendly paintball is here to help new players. Or for those who've been around a while and want to help. I'd argue though at this price that Kingman is not looking at gun up. You get a few useful farts. Get a few useful words. It's bam, bam, bam.